let's take a look at expanded. To do this, we're going to figure out how to import images. First thing we're going to do is, well, let's make a new folder here. And let's call this images. And notice how I made this right off the root. Now, we're going to grab an image. In this case, I'm going to use the Flutter logo, and I'm just going to copy this. And I'm going to go over here, and I'm just going to paste it. Notice how it says, hey, where are you trying to put this? We're just going to hit OK. And it is now in our project. It's a big image, probably bigger than what that phone's going to display. So what we really need to do is look at our pubspec.yaml. And we need to import this thing into our assets. You can see how to add assets to your application, add the assets section like this. This has nothing to do with the size. This is just purely to get this into the application. Performing a hot reload, and let's close that. Notice how it's saying, hey, PubSpec's been modified. Let's go ahead and get dependencies, and 0 errors. So our image is in there now. We need to use this thing. Let's go in here, and let's just say, let's call this images. Now, let's say new image. And notice how there's different things like image, image asset, image file, image memory, image network. Well, we want that image asset because we just added it as a local asset into the application package. We're going to add it like that. And let's run this. Let's review our emulator. Nothing's happening. Let's take a closer look. Let's actually stop this and rerun the whole thing. Let's be patient for a moment while this whole thing rebuilds and pumps it back up. There we go. Now, if you're wondering why hot reload didn't take that image, it's because we made it an asset in the actual APK. The APK is the binary that gets uploaded to the phone. I shouldn't really call it a binary, but we're going to call it that for the sake of just argument here. You can see how the image is fairly big. Now what we're going to do, and we're going to do a little bit of copy and pasting here off screen, is we're going to get a network asset in there. And we want to grab something off my website. Initiate hot reload, and oh, you see there's some sort of issue. Exemption caught by rendering library. Notice now we have this big, ugly yellow bar. Yeah, that's a visual representation that something went off the screen. You can see bottom overflowed by, and then I have to get really close to the screen to read that, 72 pixels. So that's Flutter showing you that, hey, you've got a layout problem and you need to fix this. What we're going to do is we're going to use the expanded. Notice how it wants a child. So for the child, we're just going to grab this. And let's just copy and paste. Save that, hot reload it. Notice how suddenly it fits. And let's flip the screen and see what happens. You see how even though the screen is much smaller, they are now scaled. That's what expanded does. It determines how much area of the screen you actually need to work with this. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is cover what's called the tooltip. You've probably seen it before but never even realized it. Before you, we're picking up right where we left off in our previous tutorials in Flutter for Beginners. We have our basic application here, and we have the live template that we've been using. We're going to go ahead and start filling this out. First thing we're going to do is make a variable. And in this tutorial, we're going to have a button, so of course we want to do an onClicked. We're going to say onClicked, going to fat arrow that over to set state. And in set state, we are just going to say the value equal new datetime.now, and of course toString. So we're just going to set that obviously to a string. Nothing new here so far. Let's go ahead and swap this out with our variable. And let's make a new icon button. And we're going to say icons timer, and for the onPressed, we're just going to set that with our onClicked. And just to make that a little more professional, we'll actually change the variable here, or change the function. Okay, so nothing new here. We have seen this before. Where's this tooltip? Well, if you look at the user interface of the application, the user actually doesn't know to click this. It's just an icon sitting in the middle of the page. What does it do? Is it just graphical? It's hard to tell. So buttons and other controls have what's called a tooltip property, which is just simply a string. One of those little gotchas you need to know about Dart. This may not seem like an intermediate tutorial, but it actually is, because it gets into UI development. Now, when the user clicks and holds down, you can see click me. That's the tooltip. And we can click and it works as expected. Let's take a look at the slider along with the progress indicators. Let's go ahead and let's make a double, and this is going to be our variable that we're going to hold the value in. We're going to start at 0, and we want it unchanged. This is what's going to change when we actually move the slider. Let's fat arrow that over to set state. All right, now let's go ahead and add in our widgets. Let's get rid of this guy. The first one we're going to do is add the actual slider itself. See how it wants a value and it wants the unchanged. As you can see, we have a slider and it's got graphical feedback. What we're going to do now is link that into two progress indicators. We're going to link it into the linear and the circular. Just going to give it a little bit of padding there. And let's do the linear progress indicator first. We want the value in there. And let's go ahead and add in a value color. This is a little sneaky. The value color, notice how it says animation. So you can't just actually say colors dot. You have to give it an animation. And we want the new always stopped animation. And in here, we want to give this a color. Let's say colors dot green. There we go. Let's hot reload that, and you can see there's a color. If you didn't do the color, it would just be a darker blue, and we can actually take that out real quick just so you can see what it looks like. See how it's just a blue? All right, let's go ahead and grab this container and let's copy and paste this in here. We're going to replace this with a circular progress indicator. And let's say value is the value. Looks like we got one too many of these in here. There we go. And you can see the two working together. So that is an example of the slider, the linear progress indicator, and the circular progress indicator.